Talking of retiring, what do you think about Michael Graves stepping down from TV?
Well, at least he can't do me any more harm now, but yeah, I never had a great anti-feeling. I mean, he was a man who had very strong opinions and he acted accordingly. I can never blame anybody for doing that. It was just incredibly convenient for me, really. I only heard today he went on Rule 101 and slung Doctor Who in the box, which strikes me as like heavy prejudice rather than a balanced view. I mean, he must be splitting feathers now at his current success.
I think he did actually go on record when the new series started. He did actually say something quite complimentary about it. The Rule 101 was a few years ago.
Like it's better now without Colin in it.
I think he was more complimentary of the effects nowadays. I think he acknowledged that they'd spent more money on it. And it was a great family show.
Well, that's always been the story, hasn't it? If you spend money on things like that, because you don't have to spend as much now. What they spent building that model shot for the opening of Trial would probably pay for the whole of the special effects season of the current series. You know, it's different to what they could do for the money. And the budget is much bigger now, so the current series wins both ways.
I mean, at the time they suspended the series and then ultimately Michael Gray decided you weren't going to carry on. Did you have much dealing with him in terms of the sort of communication and the decision about that?
No, not at all. The only dealing I had with him was quite interesting, because it was around about early autumn I was told by John that the series would be coming out the following year, but without me, which was kind of, oh, great, thanks. In fact, dear John, who was always a good friend and remained a good friend afterwards, actually did rather tactlessly ring me up and say, I've got some good news and some bad news. I said, oh, what's the good news? And the series came back next year. I said, wow, fantastic. What's the bad news? And then he told me. There could have been better ways of doing that, I thought. Nonetheless, he remained my friend. I still miss him, because I used to ring John up when anything stupid or funny happened. I ring up John, we laugh about it. He was one of the closest friends of a producer I've ever had in any job I've ever done. He was a good man. So then, there I was, and about 2 months later, got a phone call from the BBC saying that there was a big celebration taking place in America in November to celebrate 50 years of British television. And they wanted to take over with all the bigwigs actors to represent the most successful commercial production they made and the most successful critical production. So Bob Peck, sorry, I'm popping here. Bob Peck and yeah, what's her name? Joanne Woolley. Bob Peck and Joanne Woolley before she became killed. And I, then for Agent Darkness, me for Doctor Who went over. And I said, are you sure? I've just been sacked from this program. No, they want you. So off we went to New York and we stayed in the best hotels, went to Los Angeles, stayed in the Beverly Hills, whatever it's called, and had a stunning week with all these big wigs. Gray was there too, but he managed to carefully avoid me most of the time. Until I was in a taxi with Bob Peck, Joanne Woolley, and, of all people, David Dimbleby, who was, he lost out to Michael Gray when they both asked to be control of BBC One. They chose Michael Gray, sadly, and it turns out that Dimbleby was a great fan of mine. Oh, that's the decisions. Anyway, we were in a hire car, going back to our hotel, and a Rolls Royce pulls up beside us. And driving it is Michael Gray's wife, and sitting in the passenger seat is Michael Gray. So David Dimbleby winds the window down and taps on his window, and that goes back out. He said, "Oi, Gray," he says, "you mean bastard. Why don't you take us to your club and get us a bottle of Dom Perignon?" So Michael Gray nodded and said, "Follow us." We followed him. We went to this club. I don't know how David Dimbleby knew he had a club, but he did. He went downstairs, and I was thinking, this is going to be really embarrassing. And I sat next to Michael Gray's wife, and he went to distance himself again as far as possible. And she said to me, "When do you start doing the next series?" And I said, "Well, I'm not actually." She said, "Oh, why not? Have you moved on to something else?" I said, "No, your husband has sacked me." "Michael," she said, "you haven't sacked Colin, have you?" And he went, well, no, it's not like that. Now isn't the time to talk about that. And so I drank his, he did buy a Dom Perignon actually, it was very expensive. So I downed it, and that was the only time we ever met, and he never did explain it. But it was quite interesting moment, I rather enjoyed it, in a strange sort of way. But it was a weird experience. You know, having been removed from the bar, to find myself pressing hands with all these Americans, you know, being clapped as I entered the stage and all that, because I was Doctor Who. Only I wasn't. It just hadn't been announced at that point.
Bit bizarre. And then you mentioned about the Ultimate Adventure, so about 3 years later, about 1989. So I guess that was your sort of first delve back into the world of Doctor Who.
Yes, it was. And it was very nice because it was envisaged as an 8-month tour, and John didn't want to do all of it. So they asked me if I'd do the second half. So right from the beginning I knew I was involved, which meant I was at the first night. I don't know if any of you were there the first night in Wimbledon, but one of my favourite moments on the stage ever, because John Pertwee was also a great friend, but John had a very great sense of occasion, and he was a very, he cared passionately about getting it right. And on his very first entrance, he opened the doors of the TARDIS and stepped out and all the lights went out. The lighting cue was wrong. So he walked onto a blackout, and his first line was, hello, I'm the Doctor. And nobody heard it, of course. Because, ironically, if you can't see, you can't hear. It was weird. So you could tell he was livid when the lights came up, because his big entrance had been blown. And it was a bit ramshackle that first night. And I thought, oh dear. And I went to see it a few weeks later when he was working like clockwork. And then the writer, whose name is Terence Dix. I'm glad you're here, Paul. He was so useful and knowledgeable. Terence Dix contacted me and said, look, you're going to be starting in a couple of months, and obviously we need to rewrite the script to fit you. So what do you want changed? And I said, well, nothing much. Change, reverse the polarity of the neutron flow to reverse the linearity of the proton flow, and then it's not so, boing, boing, Pertwee. It becomes a kind of in-joke for those who knew that was a Pertwee line, but it was acceptable to the rest of the audience. And the only other thing I did, he had a scene where he had a Venusian Aikido, where he, I don't know, I think it was the mercenaries he was fighting with, and they came out it was Venusian Aikido all over the place. And I said, in those days, my doctor, didn't do violence, you wouldn't believe that, where my years were described. But I said, I would like to have an unconscious fight. So I took the sword from whoever had it in their hand, and as I was talking, I was gesticulating with it, and somebody was attacking me from behind. And I was fighting them without knowing it. So, it was a kind of theatrical piece of nonsense. But I actually had a sword fight just by waving my sword around and killed the person behind me. But accidentally, without knowing it. And those are the only changes I made. Otherwise, the fact that I was saying those lines made it different to Pertwee. And it worked, I thought, well,